I never expected a black janitor to shock a millionaire with his fluent Mandarin. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air felt heavy, charged with something unsettling. I could barely breathe, standing there in that gleaming skyscraper, mopping the floor as footfalls echoed around me. Luxury dripped from the walls. Polished marble and glittering chandeliers seemed to mock my simple uniform. My heart raced, not from fear, but from the urge to break free to be more than just a tired janitor lost in the shadows. My hands trembled as I wiped away dirt and grime. I watched people glide by, their laughter bright and carefree, a world away from my own reality. That's when I noticed him, a towering figure in a sharp tailored suit, the kind that screamed power. He was engrossed in conversation, his back turned to me. Then I heard it, a soft, fluid stream of Mandarin. My stomach dropped. It was coming from the millionaire himself. My eyes widened. This man was someone who made millions, yet here he was, conversing, perhaps misinterpreting, with another high-rolling business associate. I leaned closer, breath caught in my throat, trying to stifle my curiosity. But soon, the chatter faded into the background. The clinks of glasses and the hum of laughter morphed into a dull roar. All I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. Did I really understand that language? My memories flooded back summers spent in the bustling streets of Beijing, the thrill of learning, the feeling of belonging. I swallowed hard, warmth flooding my cheeks in a mix of embarrassment and longing. In that moment, I wasn't just a janitor. I was a man filled with dreams, a man who spoke a language rooted in my history. The shadows of my life had quieted for just that second, and a spark of courage ignited within me. But before I could act, the millionaire swung around. A sharp gasp escaped his lips as he caught sight of me. His eyes narrowed, scanning my face, recognizing something unexpected. An electric silence enveloped the room. People paused, their laughter dying as they turned to watch. Tension hung thick in the air, palpable as I felt their collective judgment, whispers threading through the crowd. What did they see? A black janitor? Or did they see the man who could bridge worlds with words? The millionaire took a step closer, his brows knitting. My heart thundered. Perhaps he saw the story that lay behind my surface. Or maybe he saw the thread of the unknown. But instead of addressing me, he turned to his guest, speaking in a hushed tone that couldn't drown out the mounting buzz around us. Will he confront me? Will I show him? I clenched my fists, breathing heavy, fighting the swell of emotions within me. This was a moment I had never prepared for. Just then, the shimmering facade of the millionaire's life cracked. A flicker of vulnerability crossed his face that froze everyone in place. And just like that, I felt the balance shift. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the tension coiled around me, it felt as if time had stretched into an eternity. The whispers of the crowd faded into the background, replaced by an overwhelming rush of thoughts that cascaded through my mind. Why had I hesitated? Why hadn't I spoken? The millionaire remained locked in conversation with his guest, their eyes darting toward me occasionally. My heart raced louder than the clattering dishes in the nearby banquet hall. I was on the precipice of something. What? I wasn't entirely sure. But I knew one thing. I could no longer merely exist within the shadows. That flicker of vulnerability I had glimpsed in the millionaire's eyes now burned bright in my memory. I needed to seize this moment, a sliver of opportunity that had been so rare in my life. I had spent years fighting against the tide of perception, struggling for every ounce of respect I could muster, and now, here I was, countless miles away from who I had once been. I began to inch my way toward them, gathering every ounce of courage within me. But as I approached, a dark figure moved to intercept me, a security guard whose broad shoulders looked like they could block out the sun. He regarded me with suspicion, raising an eyebrow that seemed to say I belonged nowhere near this gathering. "Sir, can I help you?" he asked, his voice low and firm. In that moment, I felt my voice catch in my throat. My dreams of standing in the light crumbled as I backed down, heat flooding my cheeks. I nodded, the brief spark of courage extinguishing under the weight of reality. I turned, retreating into the swirling crowd, feeling like a ghost haunting a place I'd never belong. I could hear the laughter resuming behind me, the insistent pulse of social life continuing as I faded back into my world. But, as if fate had its own plans, a soft voice broke through the din. "Excuse me." It was a woman with kind eyes and the warm glow of genuine kindness. She was elegantly dressed, her gentle demeanor radiating compassion. That was quite a moment, wasn't it?" I turned, surprised. I didn't think I struggled, caught off guard by her openness. "I saw you." "He saw you," she said, gesturing subtly toward the millionaire. It's rare to find someone who has the courage to be their true self, especially in a place like this. Her words were a balm, soothing my wounded pride. "Do you really think so?" I managed, my voice steady but soft. She smiled knowingly, as if she knew exactly the swirl of emotions in my heart. "I promise you, there's more to life than what's on the surface. I know it feels hopeless, but change begins with small moments just like that one. Don't let it slip away." I allowed myself a moment to bask in the warmth of her encouragement, memories of my childhood flooding back, the mentors who had once inspired me and urged me to find my own voice. "I've spent so long trying to fit in," I admitted, the shame of my modest position weighing heavily upon me. "Listen," she said, taking a step closer. "Everyone here is wearing a mask. They want to be noticed, but they're afraid of being seen. You move them. Don't forget that." With her comforting words lingering, I nodded, gratitude swelling in my heart. As we exchanged fleeting smiles, the millionaire's laughter rang out in the distance, mingling with the soft clinks of glass. But my attention was drawn back to the woman. "Who are you?" I asked, bemused. "Just someone who sees," she replied cryptically, her gaze softening. "I know you're capable of so much more than this. Find your voice. Speak your truth." Before I could respond, she turned and melded into the crowd as effortlessly as she had appeared, leaving me with lingering rays of hope amidst the uncertainty that churned in my stomach. But as I stood there rooted in place, pondering her words, something caught my eye. Down the hall, a commotion began to build near the entrance. The doors swung open with a sudden force, and my heart dropped as I caught sight of a familiar figure entering the lavish room. Clad in a sharp suit, his dark complexion strikingly similar to mine, he walked in with an unmistakable air of authority. The world seemed to hold its breath as he surveyed the crowd, eyes locking with mine for a brief moment. A shamed recognition flooded my mind. Marcus, my estranged brother, had stepped into the light, and the truth of our shared past loomed heavy between us, threatening to pull me back into the shadows I had desperately tried to escape. Would our past speak louder than our present? The buzz of the gala went quiet for a heartbeat as Marcus's presence rippled through the crowd. I stood frozen, as if riveted to the polished floor beneath me. The extravagant chandeliers overhead seemed to dim, the laughter and chatter fading into a muffled background noise. There he was, the brother I once idolized, now a ghost from the past, a reminder of the lives we had both chosen but navigated so differently. He strode in with a confidence that felt like a punch to my gut, a stark contrast to the uncertainty that clung to me like a shroud. I could sense the weight of unspoken words building in the air between us, pulsating with every glance he stole in my direction. For an instant, I considered retreating, once more disappearing back into the labyrinth of disinterested faces, safe from the storm of emotions that Marcus brought with him. But then something shifted within me. Remembering the woman's soft yet powerful encouragement, the pool of courage I had felt moments earlier began to bubble to the surface again. My heart raced with trepidation and fervor as I took a single, hesitant step toward the approaching chaos. Each footfall sounded like thunder in my ears, echoing past regrets, years of silence pressing upon me like a vice. "Marcus," I finally called out, my voice unfamiliar yet resolute. The crowd parted, revealing the path between USA Surreal Theater where the rest of the world faded into insignificance as I moved toward my brother. His surprise morphed into a wary smile, one that held so much unarticulated history. "What are you doing here?" he asked, the light-hearted tone of the question tinged with cautious curiosity. "I could ask you the same," I replied, a nervous chuckle escaping my lips. But I guess I have every right to be here. I'm still your brother. The moment felt heavy with meaning, a spark igniting in our shared silence. We stood there, both of us framed against the backdrop of wealth and grandeur, yet wrapped in the simple complexity of our shared past neither of us could escape. "Do you want to talk?" he asked, glancing deeper into my eyes, searching for something amid the tumult of unaddressed grievances and tangled emotions. "Maybe we should," I replied, my heart racing. Just as I was prepared to share everything, the loneliness, the abandonment I felt after he left, the pride I had in witnessing his success, I suddenly noticed the room had come alive again with whispers, the crowd drawn in by our unexpected reunion. Marcus' smile faltered, apprehension creeping in as he became aware of the prying eyes. "Not here," he said hurriedly, glancing over his shoulder. "Let's step outside." As we moved toward the exit, I caught a glimmer of sympathy from the guards. Their expressions softened as they recognized the bond between us. It reminded me of the warm presence of the woman who had encouraged me earlier. Perhaps even among the wealth and glitter, kindness existed, waiting to flourish in the strangest of circumstances. That we emerged onto the terrace, the embrace of cool night air enveloping us. I felt the slight tremors of uncertainty beginning to fade. The city's skyline sparkled against the darkness as we walked to the edge, where the hum of life continued beneath us, a world alive with stories yet to be embraced. "Why did you disappear?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, but loud in the void between us. He sighed, a weight pressing down on him as he leaned against the railing. "It wasn't what you think. I wanted to protect you. I thought I was doing the right thing by making my own way." I shook my head, the frustration bubbling to the surface. "By abandoning me, I had to navigate life alone. While I built a life," he interrupted defensively, turning to face me. "You need to understand, I wasn't just running away. I thought of you every step of the way. It was never easy. It still isn't." "Then why now?" I pressed, desperate to understand. Just as I waited for an answer, the sound of the main doors swung open again, and there that woman with kind eyes stood framed in the doorway. In that moment of bewildered recognition between us, disappointment twisted in my gut. She seemed to glide toward us, drifting between worlds just as I had always wished I could. "I hope I'm not interrupting," she said, her voice imbued with that same warmth I had felt before. But then she looked past us, the depths of her expression shifting as though she saw something we couldn't. "Marcus, you need to leave. Now." Her words sliced through the air, the urgency palpable as both Marcus and I exchanged confused glances. "Leave? Why?" he asked, disbelief lacing his tone. "The people you're involved with fear not what they seem," she warned, stepping closer. "You're in danger. Both of you." Shock and uncertainty suffocated the moment, tightening around us like a noose. "What are you talking about?" I demanded, the questions spilling out. Tension gripped the balcony, thickening with each breath. In the distance, I could hear the laughter and revelry continue unabated, the world beyond our little sanctuary oblivious to the impending storm. Marcus' face paled, the weight of our past reclaimed by reality. And in that instant, I realized I should have been prepared for chaos. Our past might have haunted us, but our present seemed all too willing to drown us in the depths of uncertainty. "Please," she said urgently, her eyes fixated on Marcus. "You need to trust me." My heart raced as the fear of what could happen next crashed over me like a wave. Would I be able to protect my brother from threats unknowable? Had we both been brought together by fate, only to be ripped apart by the very darkness we had tried to escape? The future, once bright with the promise of a long-awaited reunion, now loomed ominously ahead, shrouded in shadows of what might come next. The chill of urgency hung in the air, pulsating between us like an unsteady heartbeat. I stared into the woman's eyes, searching for clarity, trying to comprehend how the evening could shift from a fragile reunion to a point of precipice. Tomorrow held the whispers of hope for mending the fractures of our past. Yet tonight we stood at the edge of an abyss. "Who are you?" I murmured, my voice heavy with both fear and curiosity. She wasn't just a stranger. She resonated with an inexplicable familiarity, an aura of unguarded truth. Someone who knows the real dangers lurking here. "My name is Clara." Her words were deliberate, steadying. "Marcus, you're on a path that could lead to ruin." I've come too late, but I need you to listen. Why should we trust you? Marcus stepped forward, his voice low yet laced with authority, a remnant of the older brother he still tried to be. But I could see the uncertainty dancing behind his defiance, because I've seen what can happen to people like you. Clara's voice softened, and her eyes flickered with genuine concern. I lost someone I loved, and I've made it my mission to protect others from the same fate. What exactly are you talking about? The storm within me surged, a tide of pent-up emotions and painful memories. What fate? Who are you trying to protect us from? She hesitated for a moment, looking over her shoulder as if the shadows themselves might indulge in eavesdropping. You need to understand, there are people here tonight who aren't just socialites. They're dangerous, ruthless. They don't care about the consequences, and your presence of vulnerability that people like that will exploit. That I found myself lost in Clara's gaze, a reflection of resilience intertwined with shared fear. What do you know about my life? I pressed, my voice cracking. You don't know anything about what he went through. That I know a lot more than you realize, she replied, her intensity unwavering. I knew what Marcus was grappling with when he chose to move away, but this is bigger than the both of you. It always has been. You're tangled in a web you don't fully see. Enough. Marcus interjected, a twinge of anger surfacing. I'm not sure if you're here to help us or to scare us, but I won't let you dictate my choices. If you have information to share, then share it. If not, Marcus, she's right, I interjected, feeling the heat of the moment rising. We can't just dismiss her. If there are real threats, we need to understand them. Silence thickened again, the unyielding energy between us swirling, both menacing and hopeful, as we stood at the brink of an uncertain alliance. Clara took a slow breath, as if weighing her next words meticulously. Okay, she said softly, yet with unwavering strength. There's a reason I came tonight. It's no coincidence that you two are reuniting now. They've been watching you, Marcus, your rise, the connections you've made. They see a way to exploit your past, to manipulate you into making choices that will endanger you both. Who exactly is they? Marcus demanded, stepping closer to Clara, his determination shifting from defensiveness to earnestness. The Black Syndicate, she said, the name hanging in the air like an ominous cloud. They're operating behind the scenes, embedding themselves in these high society gatherings, and they've been after someone in your circle, a powerful asset to exploit. You may think that you've established your independence in your world, but your connections have put a target on your back. The tremor coursed through me at the mention of the syndicate, a name whispered about in fearful tones. The dread that had settled deep in my stomach spread like poison, wrapping around my heart. What do we do? I asked, wrestling with the enormity of the reality flooding my mind. First, we move, Clara stated, resolute and purposeful. And we find a safe place to talk. We have to gather what information we can. There's no time to waste. Before Marcus could respond, a clamor erupted on the terrace. Sudden uproar echoed behind the main doors. Gasps and startled murmurs pierced the night as figures poured out into the open, eyes wide with urgency. My heart dropped as I spotted their suits, familiar, angular, sharp, their intentions crystal clear. They're here, Clara said firmly, panic cutting through her calm facade. We need to go. Now. The world felt as if it spun into chaos. I glanced at Marcus, seeing uncertainty and fear intermingled with resolve. What do we do? He asked, his voice strained. Just then, Clara reached into her bag and pulled out a small device, flicking a switch that bathed our surroundings in a pulsing blue light. This will give us a brief window. Come on. Heart pounding, I grabbed Marcus' arm. We stick together. No matter what. As we dashed toward the side entrance, the glare of headlights flooded our path. A black SUV idled at the curb, the driver's silhouette tense. As we raced toward it, a chilling voice called after us, reverberating through the night with familiar cruelty. Marcus, you can't run from your choices. I spun around, breath hitching as I recognized the voice. The figure stepping from the shadows was none other than Aaron, once a trusted ally, now a phantom draped in menace. Damn it, Marcus cursed under his breath. The fury etched in his features made my heart race and my breath catch. What are you doing here? He said, rage mixing with fear as he clenched his fists. Just trying to help you see things clearly. You think you've forgotten? You think you can just turn away without consequences? As Clara turned to face the SUV, my heart began to splinter. The very darkness we had just begun to confront was now looming closer than ever, a grotesque reminder that the past would not remain buried. The night air felt heavy and charged with impending dread. We had opened a door that could not be closed, and now fate was closing in on us. I glanced again at Marcus, his eyes wide with uncertainty, and felt the weight of our fractured bond unshakable, yet fragile. "Come on." Clara's voice cut through my reverie, a rallying cry that urged us into action. With one last glance at Aaron, a silent challenge coursing through the air, I followed Marcus to the SUV, the wheels spinning as we hitched our lives to the uncertain path ahead. But as we drove into the night, the tension hung thick between us like a storm, and all I could think was, would the choices we made lead to salvation or damnation? The engine hummed under the weight of silence, a lullaby for chaos brewing just beyond our world. The city lights streamed by in distorted flashes, a blur of color that mirrored the turmoil within. Clara sat in the front, her brow furrowed, fingers clutching the seat tightly, as if it was the only thing anchoring her to reality. I threw a glance at Marcus, his jaw set and eyes fixed outside, cataloging familiar streets now crawling with ghosts of our decisions. The weight of his past pressed against him like a heavy shroud, suffocating and unforgiving. I reached for his hand, clasping it tightly, silently offering my strength. He turned then, a flash of gratitude flickering through his guarded expression. "Do you think they'll follow us?" he asked, voice low and shaky, the bravado of moments before cracking like glass. "I don't know," Clara replied, her tone somber yet tinged with resolve. "But this isn't over. They won't just let us go. Whenever the syndicate is involved, the stakes are higher than we can comprehend." A sharp inhale punctured the air, and I momentarily shut my eyes, summoning a toughness I didn't feel. This was no longer just about us. The fates of countless lives entwined with our choices. "What do we do now?" My voice quivered, betraying my inner turmoil. Clara glanced at us through the rearview mirror. "We need to regroup, gather our leads. I have contacts, people who can help." "Help us do what?" Marcus replied bitterly, his tone cutting through the remaining hope. "If they know we're out, they'll come for us. We're already marked." We hit a bump, and I felt the tension ripple through the vehicle. Clara's knuckles were bright against the steering wheel as she navigated through the darkened streets. "We can't give up. If we go to ground, we'll just be sitting targets. We need to stay one step ahead." "I asked that how you lost someone?" Marcus snapped. Pain laced his words, a desperate plea for answers wrapped in anger. "By running?" Her jaw clenched, but Clara didn't back down. "You think it's easy for me? I lost a brother to those monsters. I won't let it happen again if I can help it." The words hung thick between us, old wounds swelling anew. I watched them, the duality of hardship etching their features, the raw, exposed vulnerability oscillating beneath their defiance like a dangerous current. The air was thick with unsaid fears, our past weaving a treacherous tapestry that demanded we confront it. "Clara," I murmured, seeking solace in her steadiness. "What do you know about Aaron? Why would he be working with them?" "His motivations are complicated," she said, glancing back at Marcus. "But he's sharp. If he sensed any vulnerability in you, Marcus had exploited. No matter the cost." I felt the familiar prick of anxiety at the thought of Aaron's return, the embodiment of betrayal. The very foundation of our trial had just shifted, and the fear of his influence bore down on me, threatening to crush us before we could catch our breath. "We have to figure out what he knows. He might be a part of this master plan." Marcus turned to the window again, the gleam of streetlights casting shadows on his face. "No," he said, determination creeping into his voice. "I won't let him have that power. Not over me, not over us." Before I could respond, Clara slowed the vehicle, pulling into a narrow alley that seemed cloaked in obscurity. "This is it," she announced, barely above a whisper. "We can lay low here for a moment." As the engine quieted, a sense of unease settled in the air. The dim light revealed the peeling walls and broken glass that surrounded us. It felt too precarious, as if the universe was holding its breath, waiting for us to make our next move. Stepping out of the car, I felt the weight of our purpose shift. My heart raced. I could taste fear and desperation mingling in the back of my throat. "What now?" I asked, needing direction. "Make contact," Clara replied, her voice sturdy despite the uncertainty that cloaked her. "I have a safe house not far from here. We need to regroup and devise a plan. Marcus hesitated, his eyes shadowed with doubt, but he nodded. Somehow, this was a turning point for him, a step back into a world he thought he had escaped. Yet I could see Ithope flickered in him, an ember waiting to be fanned into flame. We made our way through the haze, the alley swallowing us whole. I still clutched his hand, securing our bond as we traversed into the unknown. Just as we took a turn, the harsh bark of laughter drifted toward us, sharp and unsettling, echoing off the grim walls that my stomach twisted. "Did you hear that?" I said, glancing around. "It's nothing," Clara insisted, but uncertainty laced her voice as we moved closer to the end of the alley. I felt an oppressive presence looming. A group of figures leaned against the far wall, shrouded in shadows. They resembled silhouettes lost to the night, but one among them stood out, their features glinting under the flickering streetlight. "Aaron?" Marcus breathed, a mix of disbelief and horror flashing across his face. I stood frozen. The laughter turned into menacing jeering, a sound like thunder before the storm. My heart hammered in my chest, every instinct screaming for us to retreat. But there was nowhere to go. Then, the figure stepped forward, face illuminated in a sickly light. "You'll find it hard to escape your past, Marcus," he purred, voice silky but laced with malice. "They've been waiting for you." In that moment, the air turned electric, filled with confrontations we weren't prepared to face. My breath caught, reality crashing around us like waves against jagged rocks. As I exchanged glances with Marcus, dread pooled in the pit of my stomach. This was only the beginning. We were walking a perilous line, the ground beneath us trembling with the weight of our choices. And maybe, just maybe, our decisions could lead to ruin, not just for us but for everyone we held dear. The air was heavy with tension, a palpable force that constricted around my throat as we faced the figure emerging from the shadows. I could feel Marcus's heartbeat radiating through our linked fingers, urgent and wild, as the truth of Aaron's appearance registered in my mind like a bitter pill. Our journey, wrapped in the tenuous fabric of hope and defiance, now felt frayed and exposed. "Aaron," Marcus said again, this time more forcefully, as if he could conjure a different reality from his voice alone. "What are you doing here?" The corner of Aaron's mouth twisted into a sly grin, his eyes glowing with a predatory gleam. "Oh, Marcus, I didn't think you'd be so surprised to see me. After all the trouble you've caused, I'd have thought you'd be keeping a closer eye on your back." With every word, the anger that simmered beneath Marcus's skin began to bubble over, clouding his judgment. But I could see the fractures in his facade, the oscillation between rage and fear running through him like a relentless storm. "This isn't just a game for you, is it?" he challenged, voice hoarse and trembling. "You think you can play puppet master? You don't even know what you're dealing with." Aaron chuckled, a sound devoid of mirth. "And you do? You're in way over your head, Marcus. The syndicate has plans you can't possibly comprehend. They've got their eyes on you. And with me, you come bearing gifts." A chill swept through me, punctuated by the echo of his words. The loss of autonomy, the descent into darkness, this was the very core of our struggle, and he was reveling in it. Clara shifted slightly beside me, an anchor of calm amidst the tempest, but her gaze flickered toward Aaron, a mix of wariness and concern. "What do you want from us?" Clara asked, forcing the fray of her emotions into a hard edge. "If you're working with them, then you're no better than the rest that I am not working with them," Aaron replied casually, shrugging. "I'm ahead of the game. I'm providing them what they want. You, Marcus, and your penchant for destruction. And trust me, you don't want to be on their radar." Each word dripped with malice, a poison running through the already frayed bonds of trust we had built. I couldn't comprehend the turn our lives had taken, the desperate chain of decisions weaving us into a more tortured fate. Clara caught my eye momentarily, the fear reflected in her gaze echoing my own. That I took a step forward, breaking the invisible barrier between us. "You think you can manipulate us? Use fear to drive us apart? You're wrong, Aaron." The words surged from me, fueled by a conviction that spoke louder than I felt inside. "We will not become pawns in your twisted game." Laughter erupted from the shadows behind him, an oily sound that grated against my nerves. "What do you think you can do? How can you fight something you can't even see?" A flick of the wrist sent a signal rippling through the other figures, and my pulse quickened as they edged forward, indistinct shapes emerging into the light. "Back off," Marcus shouted, stepping protectively in front of me. The dynamic shifted, their presence an embodiment of everything we sought to outrun, a nightmare rising anew from our past. Aaron tilted his head, amused, yet underlining every word with an unyielding threat. "You think you can outrun the syndicate? You're merely delaying the inevitable." Before I could respond, the clamor of footsteps filled the alleyway, mingling with the echo of our own heartbeat. My heart raced as a duo of shadows emerged, faces momentarily cloaked under hoods, features indistinct behind the veil. Without warning, they lunged forward, hands outstretched. The swift motion sent Clara and me stumbling back as Marcus barked out a warning. "Run!" A surge of adrenaline propelled us through the alley, pushing against the growing sense of dread crawling under my skin. I could hear the laughter of the figures behind us, a haunting chorus urging my worst nightmares to surface. "Where?" Clara shouted, panic lacing her voice. "Which way? Just keep moving," Marcus demanded, his grip on my hand a lifeline as we darted down the length of the alley. Every corner felt like a potential dead end, every shadow a lurking danger. It was chaos, our hearts racing against the impending doom. I could hear their footsteps behind us, relentless and palpable, forming a terrible cadence to the heartbeat of our flight. Our choices led to this, a trail of desperation behind us, as if we were racing against an unseen clock that pulsed with every beat. But then, amidst the din of confusion, a flicker of movement caught my attention, something shining amongst the debris of the alleyway. My heart skipped a beat as clarity broke through the panic. "Stop!" I yelled, trying to pull Marcus back. "There's something." Before he could react, I moved toward the gleam, fear momentarily eclipsed by curiosity. Beneath the grime lay a small silver key, ornate and pristine, a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding us. My fingers brushed against it, and an unexpected warmth coursed through me. "A key?" Marcus questioned, his eyes narrowing in on the object. "It might open something," I replied breathlessly, urgency echoing in the corners of my mind. "I don't know what, but it could." The shadows loomed larger, laughter mingling with shadows as I hastily pocketed the key. The weight of the moment bore down on me. Hope mixed with fear convinced me that this was our chance, a thin thread of escape woven through desperation. "Let's go," Clara urged, her voice slicing through the delirium, eyeing the figures closing in on us. Together, we sprinted down the alley, heart pounding in rhythm with uncertain futures. But as the darkness whispered around us, I dared not look back, driven by the frantic beat of our escape. Behind us, Aaron's voice called after us like a phantom. "You can't escape your past. They'll find you. They'll make sure of it." The alley fell silent, save for our ragged breaths. We ran, hearts heavy with unsaid words and unanswered questions, knowing this was only the beginning. Whatever lay ahead, the truth would soon emerge, shrouded in shadows and the weight of our demons. I clutched the key tightly, unaware of the doors it might unlock and the secrets that lay beyond. The sound of our footfalls echoed in the dimly lit streets as we veered away from the suffocating darkness of the alley, our breaths deep and ragged. My heart still pounded with the rhythm of escape, each beat a reminder of the threat that lingered behind us. Clenching the small silver key in my hand, I felt the weight of it against my palm, a tangible object amidst the emotional chaos we faced. "Where do we even go?" Clara panted, her expression a jumbled mix of determination and dread. "They won't stop coming for us." "I don't know," Marcus replied, his voice strained as he glanced back over his shoulder, his instincts ever vigilant. "But we can't stay in one place for long. We need to think on our feet." Racing around the corner, we stumbled into a quiet, secluded park that was bathed in the soft glow of moonlight. It seemed surreal, a peaceful sanctuary when our hearts were fueled by anxiety and urgency. I could feel the tension shift slightly, as if the weight of our fears had been momentarily suspended. We sank onto a bench, gasping for air and trying to regain composure. I caught Clara's eye, and something in her gaze reminded me that we were in this together, even in our darkest moments. Marcus leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees, clearly wrangled by his thoughts. "We can't let Aaron's words get under our skin," I said, trying to keep the tremble out of my voice. We need to focus on what's ahead, not what he says. Easier said than done, Marcus murmured, his hands tightening into fists. I knew the struggle within him, a battlefield fought between fear and defiance. He's right about one thing, though, he continued, we don't fully understand what we're up against. Silence enveloped us, each lost in our thoughts, the night air heavy with unspoken fears. But then, a gust of wind swirled around us, and I felt a flicker of warmth in the key I clutched. It dawned on me that perhaps this key held some hidden potential, a promise waiting to be fulfilled. What if I started, hesitating as my heart raced with possibility? What if this key is our answer? A way to find out what the syndicate is really after. Clara leaned in, her curiosity piqued. What do you mean? I don't know yet, but there must be something important it unlocks. I could feel the electricity of hope coursing through me as if the key were alive, urging me to explore its mysteries. Maybe there are documents, evidence something that might lead us to the truth. Marcus' gaze sharpened as realization sparked within him. The archives. There's a rumored safe house not too far from here, a place where they store everything related to the syndicate. But it's heavily guarded. Then we have to be smart, Clara said, her resolve resurfacing. We'll have to time this perfectly. Yes, and we'll need to move quickly, I replied, feeling a newfound sense of urgency swelling inside me. If Aaron and the syndicate are really watching our every move, we can't afford to be reckless. This is our chance. Standing up, Marcus exhaled, his shoulders squared with determination. Let's go. But we have to stick together, no matter what. With a nod from Clara, we resumed our sprint, pumping our legs against the concrete, driven by the potential of the key's promisea beacon amidst the chaos we were swallowed by. As we sprinted through the winding streets, I felt the weight of our choices pressing on my chest. Every step further entwined us in the web of our new reality as we strived to untangle our fates. The deeper we delved, the darker the secrets we might uncover, but fate compelled us forward, dazzled by the luminous flicker of hope lodged within the key. Finally arriving at the address Marcus had recalled, we halted in front of a nondescript building, dark and foreboding. Marcus carefully surveyed the area, and Clara and I followed suit, adrenaline coursing through our veins. This is it. Marcus pointed to a narrow entrance shrouded in shadows. The safe house that I felt a shiver run down my spine. The very air around us seemed to shift, thickening with the echoes of uncertainty. Do you think we can trust what we find in there? Clara whispered, her voice barely above a breath that I don't know. I admitted, gripping the key tightly once more. But we have to try. Before we could move, the sound of footsteps echoed ominously in the alley, a rhythmic cadence that grew louder. My stomach flipped as panic set in. We need to get in now? We rushed inside, the door just barely closing behind us when a figure loomed around the corner. My breath caught in my throat. Aaron stood at the threshold, flanked by two menacing silhouettes. I see you found my little secret, but you're too late. The syndicate is about to change everything. A shiver ran down my spine, crashing with pure dread as I finally understood the extent of the web in which we were ensnared. We have to go, Marcus shouted, pulling me toward an interior corridor, but we were trapped between the walls of our choices and the chilling laughter of Aaron that reverberated off the surfaces. And in that moment, as the shadows closed in around us, I knew we had stepped into a realm of darkness where there was no turning back. The corridors of the safe house loomed over us like a labyrinth, each door a potential path leading deeper into the chaos that the syndicate represented. With every hurried step, the shadows flickered, creating snapshots of doubt that danced before my eyes. It felt surreal, the adrenaline mingling with an undercurrent of uncertainty, almost paralyzing yet somehow. I found strength in the warmth of the key still clasped in my hand. Which way? Clara's voice trembled, her urgency mirroring my own. Left. Marcus shouted, taking a decisive turn with the instinct of someone trying to outrun fate. Our footsteps echoed hollowly behind us as we veered into an open room, its somber walls lined with shelves laden with weathered books and dusty files. It felt almost like a sanctuary hidden in the heart of a storm. Scattered papers slipped from our fingers as we rummaged through the organized chaos, searching for fragments of information, any sliver of hope that would illuminate our path. Marcus darted toward a desk overflowing with documents, his brow furrowed in concentration. Clara, meanwhile, flipped through a stack of worn folders, her face alight with determination. Here. I thrust the key toward a locked cabinet, a gleam of expectation shining through the layers of fear. This could be it. With a nod, Marcus hurried over, the urgency of our situation driving him to work quickly. Sweat dripped down his forehead as he fit the key into the lock, the metallic click sounding like a heartbeat in the tense silence. But the moment it turned, the jagged edges of our reality crashed down around us. Suddenly, the shudder of footsteps echoed through the hall like thunder, followed by Aaron's mocking voice. "You really think you can hide in there? The syndicate knows every inch of this place." Clara's eyes widened in horror. "We have to move now. We can't let them catch us." Panic surged, and we bolted back into the hallway, the echo of Aaron's laughter fading into an ominous reminder of our precarious situation. The thrill of discovery was overshadowed by the fear of what we might find, and yet we continued to push forward, our minds racing with possibilities and dread. "I can't believe we're actually doing this," I gasped in breathless disbelief. Each step felt like we were breaking the very laws that governed us, a rebellion against our circumstances. "What if we get caught?" "Worry about that later," Marcus said, his voice strained as he led us down a narrow staircase to a basement level that felt alive with secrets, a pulse beneath our feet that thrummed with undiscovered truths. As we descended, Clara lingered at the top for a second. "What if we find something we're not ready for?" She looked at me with wide, uncertain eyes, the weight of the past crashing onto her present. "We have no choice." I felt the resolve harden within me, overriding the whispers of doubt. Whatever's down there could change everything. The basement door creaked open, revealing rows of filing cabinets, their contents old and faded. We swept through the aisles, breath held tight in our throats, hunting for anything that might give us leverage against the syndicator insight into their plans. "Here," Marcus exclaimed, pulling open a drawer that was surprisingly heavy. As he sifted through the aged documents, his fingers froze over a particular dossier, its margins adorned with jagged notes. "What is it?" I leaned closer, curiosity piqued as he pried it free. "It looks like a list of people," Marcus murmured, scanning the pages. "Here are names, addresses, and photos." His voice dropped, the weight of skepticism heavy upon him. "Oh God, they've been tracking people." A loud crash interrupted his thought, shattering the vulnerable moment. The door to the basement flew open, and Aaron stood framed in the doorway, flanked by the same two silhouettes, their faces masked with an unsettling calm. "Did you really think you could outsmart us?" Aaron's voice dripped with malevolence, sending a chill through my veins. "You're playing a dangerous game. What do you want?" Clara's voice rose, a mix of anger and fear that echoed in the cramped space. "That I want to show you the truth," Aaron replied, sarcasm dripping from every word. "You're in way over your heads, and for that, you'll pay the price." Before we could react, the two figures moved swiftly, charging at us with the speed of a predator. I felt my heart lurch as they grabbed Marcus and Clara, fear unfolding in a cacophony of shouts and rusty metal clanging. "Wait. No," I screamed, lunging toward Marcus. But a sharp pain jolted through my shoulder as I was thrown back against a shelf. The world spun, disorientation mingling with desperation. Scrambling to my feet, I caught a glimpse of Clara being dragged away, her eyes wide, reflecting both terror and an unyielding spirit. "Listen to me," Aaron shouted, throwing a dossier across the room with a draconian flourish. "Open it. You'll find your fate written within. But don't think you'll like what you see." In that moment, I felt a familiar heaviness in my hands, the key, now warm against my palm. With trembling fingers, I reached down for the dossier on the floor, the air thick with impending darkness. The truth lay before me, a mirror reflecting everything we'd been fighting against and everything yet unknown. And as I prepared to open it, a potent surge of fear and determination wove through me. Hope and despair entwined, the stakes getting ever higher. I knew we had crossed a threshold that could destroy us or set us free, yet there was no turning back now. And then, the pages began to flip open, a torrent of revelations laid bare, exposing our world in ways we could never have anticipated. As the shadows pressed in closer, I realized we were no longer merely players in a game. We were pawns in a much larger war, with consequences that could reverberate through our lives forever. But what would we choose to do with the truth once it was revealed? The answer loomed just out of reach, and I braced myself for the impact of what was to come, heart pounding in time with the chaos unfolding around us. As the dossier fell open, pages fluttered like desperate wings beneath my fingers. The words danced in a chaotic mix of names, locations, and the faint tracing of connections that spiraled into a web I could never have foreseen. My breath caught in my throat as I scanned the first line, and then another, each sentence hammering against my chest like the ticking of a clock, counting down to an inevitable fall. Your friends won't be treated kindly if you don't cooperate, you know, Aaron taunted, his voice slicing through the paper's rustle, ratcheting up the tension in the already oppressive air. Ignoring him, I dedicated my thoughts to the pages. There was a distinct structure to what lay before me, a list of syndicate targets, each entry a tragic tale marked by the ink of those who had disappeared without a trace. I muttered, absorbing the implications of every name. The realization hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. This wasn't just a collection of data. It was a map of suffering, etched in anguish and loss. Clara screamed as she struggled against the grip of her captors. Her resolve prickled at the edges of my consciousness, causing me to glance up. We have to do something. We can't leave them to this. I felt the weight of her desperation mirror my own. It was my instinct to protect, to strike back, yet my body felt paralyzed, caught in the shockwave of our reality. Looking at Marcus, his face tense and determined, I saw a flicker of the willpower radiating from him, a glimmer of hope in the dark. Stop looking at it, Aaron snarled, taking a menacing step closer. You won't find anything good in there. Maybe, I managed, my heart hammering against the new weight of defiance swelling in my chest. But it explains why you're terrified, he smirked. But there was something sharp behind those narrowed eyes, a hint of uncertainty that made me pulse with resolve. Every name here could be someone's loved one, I continued, voice steadying as I absorbed the gravity of the faces attached to the names. Your reign depends on the pain of innocent people. You think you're in control, but this, I pointed to the dossier, the evidence of their cruelty. This is your undoing. Aaron's smile faltered for an instant, a fleeting fracture in his mask of arrogance. It was enough. I could feel the tide beginning to turn. Let them go, I shouted, adrenaline coursing through me. You want to put fear into us? Look around. We're already afraid. But you underestimated just how far we're willing to go to save each other. What makes you think you hold any power against me? He shot back, voice vibrating with suppressed rage, yet I could sense his panic struggling to rise. Because you're scared, I replied, the sensation of clarity sharp against the surging waves of chaos that threatened to overwhelm me. You're afraid of losing what you've built on the backs of the ones you've hurt. Stand tall before us all, but know that there's a fire growing in this room, a fire lit by the suffering of your victims, and it's only a matter of time before it reaches you. With that, something shifted in the air. Clara's struggles intensified, the fear entangled with resolve surging between us, as if we were all suddenly connected, the three of us grasping for the flickering lantern of hope, even amidst encroaching darkness. Suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a shadow moving at the basement's far door. It was quick, almost ghostly, and I almost convinced myself I had imagined it before the shadow leaped into the light. A figure beyond the reach of our dirty little Wara janitor with eyes that gleamed with wisdom and resilience. You're brave, child, he said in Mandarin, making eye contact with me. His voice brimmed with warmth despite the tension suffocating the air. But you're also in grave danger. Who are you? I managed, breath escaping in a rush as he stepped fully into view. My heart raced as I realized this man seemed to exist outside the schemes of the syndicate, an unexpected ray of light piercing through the storm clouds enveloping us. The flicker of recognition washed over him, and his gaze softened as something akin to kinship sparked. I've seen the scars they've left. Don't let them snuff your fire. You would wield it far better than they ever could. Before I could respond, a loud crash echoed again, this time a tornado of force entering behind the janitor as several armed figures stormed through the door, chaos erupting anew. Run, the janitor urged, his voice steady and authoritative, contrasting starkly with the chaos exploding around us. He turned to face Aaron and his cohorts, standing defiantly, undeterred as the mayhem swirled to go. Trust in the strength of your unity. In that heartbeat, I saw Clara, her eyes full of disbelief and once more fully ignited with the fire we had kindled between us. Marcus mirrored the look of fierce determination as he shifted his weight toward the door. Now, I shouted, and we all surged forward, leaving behind the mysterious janitor standing between us and the syndicatia flickering ember in the face of overwhelming darkness. We dashed toward freedom. The weight of the dossier still clutched in my hands. I knew this escape was merely a prelude. Whatever secrets it held could forge our plans against the syndicate, yet the cost was still uncertain. Wherever we were headed, I knew one absolute. The revelations within those pages would forever change the path we would take. And as we emerged into the unknown, a sudden realization crashed over me, striking deeper than any panic. The janitor had spoken of scars. Scars that echoed the losses we now carried between us, bound like blood. The revelations weren't just about others they'd hurt. They were about us, too. What had we truly stumbled into under the veneer of this battle? What truths about ourselves would we have to confront next? The fire crackled behind us, brightening the way as we raced into the shadows, the horizon both daunting and filled with a hope that flickered against our fears. The frantic energy of our escape pulsed through me as Marcus, Clara, and I burst out of the safe house into the cold night air, the city lights flickering like distant stars igniting a world of possibility. But the rush of adrenaline was quickly doused by the weight of what lay ahead, a world cloaked in shadows, treachery, and the unforgiving grip of the syndicate that loomed like a tempest behind us. The memory of the janitor's words echoed in my mind, a quiet hue of strength amidst the growing storm. Trust in the strength of your unity. As we sprinted down the dimly lit street, I felt the grip of their meaning tighten around my heart like a guiding compass. Together, we were more than our individual pains, more than the scars accumulated from losses that had threatened to drown us. It was time to confront not just the syndicate, but the very essence of who we had become through our struggles. Where to now? Clara puffed between breaths, glancing over her shoulder as we ducked into an alley, seeking refuge from prying eyes. The echoes of our harried steps faded momentarily, the stark silence around us creating an oppressive blanket of anticipation that I pulled myself together, forcing my racing heart to steady. I could feel Marcus' warmth beside me, the bond we shared silently fortified by everything we had fought to escape. I think we need to find somewhere safe to regroup and look over that dossier closely. There must be a way to use it to turn things around. Marcus nodded, his jaw set in determination, yet the tension radiating from him was a reminder of the stakes at play. But how do we do that with them on our tails? It's not just Aaron we're dealing with. It's a powerful enemy that won't hesitate to eliminate us. Clara's eyes narrowed as she thought, the flicker of hope sparking back to life. If we can figure out where they're planning their moves, we can anticipate their steps. There has to be a place where they gather. Information has to be flowing, and someone has to know how to talk to them. She paused, expression shifting as inspiration flooded her. You mentioned a Connect Iona lookout maybe? Someone who can get us access. Suddenly, it clicked. There's a bar on the outskirts that caters to insiders. Whispers float around places like that. If we can get in, we might find someone willing to help us, I said, hope igniting within me. With renewed purpose, I led the way out of the alley, glancing once more in the direction of the safe house where shadows seemed to dance mischievously, taunting us for daring to dream of escape. As we stepped back into the main street, I could feel the night wrap around us like a shroud, but our bond transformed the weight into something almost tangible. We became united forces in the face of impending darkness. I looked at Marcus, shifting my memory to the emotions refracted in his eyes: fear, grief, and beneath it all, a flickering ember of resilience that urged him forward. I saw Clara embody the fierce resolve of that radiant light illuminating the night. With our destination set, we merged into the urban pulse, weaving between the sprawling buildings, each step forward punctuated by the realization that we were carving out our own narrativia, rebellion against the tumult that had defined our lives for too long. When we sighted the bar, a modest structure draped in anonymity, the feeling of safety almost seemed intangible. My heart raced with a cocktail of dread and excitement running wild within me. The fear of what lay ahead battling with optimism burgeoning there. A counterbalance I desperately needed. Once inside, the clattering of glasses and murmured conversations enveloped us like a shroud. The atmosphere was thick with potential, secrets whispered like prayers for absolution. We scanned the dimly lit room, feeling dwarfed by the weight of what we sought in the sea of unfamiliar faces. Stay close, I murmured, gripping Clara's hand and sharing a brief look of reassurance with Marcus as he nodded back in a wordless pact. We moved deeper into the sanctum of the bar, seeking out unexplained connections that could guide us toward the truth we gambled everything to unearth. Then we saw her, a woman with silver hair tied back neatly, her face lined with wisdom, sat at the bar nursing a drink, her gaze scrutinizing every newcomer as if she could see beyond their surface. There's the filter of truth, I muttered under my breath. Maybe she knows something. Gathering courage, we approached the bar, and uncertainty washed over me as I took a deep breath, ready to speak. "Excuse me, would you not hear?" she interrupted, her voice low and determined, scanning the room for unwanted attention. "Meet me in the back. And for heaven's sake, use your instincts, there's danger lurking all around." Without hesitation, we obliged, weaving through the crowd, my pulse quickening with each cautious step. The back room was dim, yet shrouded in possibility. When the door shut tightly behind us, cutting off the noise of the bar, the air turned electric, thrumming with urgency. "Who are you?" I asked, breaking the silence, the words gentling myself against my rising fear, hope spiraling within. "Names don't matter much when alliances are born in shadows," she replied cryptically, her gaze steady. "But I can tell you that the threads of the syndicate run thicker than you realize. Your brother, Marcus's rise has left marks. They won't stop until they've claimed something. At the mention of his name, I felt Marcus stiffen beside me. "What do you mean? The list you have, those are not just names, they're threads in this snare. They wish to pull you back in, use your connection to manipulate, control," she warned, her eyes darkening. "They'll dangle every temptation before you, and it will be up to you whether you bite." Suddenly, everything clicked into place, the assembly of names, the possibility of betrayal, the losses we had endured. I turned to Clara and Marcus, whose faces mirrored shock and the sheer weight of acceptance. "What do we do?" Clara breathed, torn between courage and despair. "You stand your ground," the woman intoned unwaveringly. "Embrace those connections, those bonds you've made through hardship. Use them as a fortress and unyielding defense against the tides." The words felt like wind beneath my wings, a surge of strength I had long desired in the face of uncertainty. Together, I echoed, feeling the warmth of the connection I shared with Marcus and Clara tightening against the fear that had tried to creep back. "Yes," the woman said, a glimmer of pride sparking in her eyes. "They can shake you, but they cannot break you if you unite. Remember, each name on that list tells a story, and together, the three of you can either write an ending or open a new chapter." Clarity washed over the room as I grasped the key I still carried. "Then we'll rewrite this," I said firmly, offering my resolve. "We will protect those lives, that's what we'll do." "Be careful," she cautioned, leaning closer. "The syndicate won't let go easily. They'll strike back when you least expect it." "We'll be ready," Marcus stated, his voice climbing into certainty, a newfound conviction filling his spirit. As we left the bar behind, I felt the intricacies of purpose weaving together, binding us closer than we had ever been. The key slipped from my palm into my pocket, no longer just an object, but a symbol of redemption. We stepped back into the bustling night, a fire igniting within us, unbreakable, unyielding, and I knew, without a doubt, that this would be the chapter that no one could take from us. Hand in hand, we moved as one through the crowded streets, ready to face whatever the syndicate had in store. The warmth of unity wrapped around us, each stride fueled by the power of hope, love, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. And in that moment, I whispered to the winds that accompanied us, "We will rise from the ashes and spark a revolution." We had changed. We had survived. The battles ahead were ours to carry, yet we would no longer walk in silence. Our voices would echo through every door we unlocked, leaving traces of our resolve behind. And so, As we disappeared into the maze of the city, every heart and ember now. Overwhelming truth crystallized within me. We were the authors of our destiny, ready to confront the shadows, bearing the light of our truths into the dark. In an unfolding saga that was but beginning, I held on to one certainty. Together, we would ignite a revolution that no name could ever erase.